Bismillah, Assalamu alaikum. In today's video, I'll be doing another video on the blind faith of atheists. And honestly, I've been looking forward to discussing this topic for quite a while, and I think it is extremely important. And although it might shock a lot of you that I'm making a video on this point, the human chimp common ancestry being a blind faith of atheists. But to be honest, I think this is an extremely powerful point to show that how atheist position is based on nothing but blind faith. And inshallah, I think a lot of you will be surprised by the video and the point I'm making, because I don't think it's complicated. It's actually quite simple, and the atheist claim is actually refuted quite easily. Let's get started. So here's the contention by the claim by the atheist, right? Their claim is that evolutionary science basically proves that humans and chimps have a common ancestor. Human chip common ancestry is proven by basically not just from anatomical or through fossils or other things. This is also proven by evidence from genetics. Hence, the religions which suggest humans were created without a common ancestor, right? Like Islam suggests or Christianity suggests that Prophet Adam alayhi salam, the first human, was created without an ancestor, right? Without a parent. Those religions have to be false because human chip and ancestry is proven true, and there's no way around this. Now, all of this is actually refuted quite easily. I'll just go through the basic refutation on the basic point here. Then I'll go into detail about the points on genetics and why the fossils or anything else doesn't help the atheists here. Now here's the basic refutation. Belief in human chip, a common ancestry. First point, it's based on nothing but blind faith. Let me explain why. Homology is basically an assumption, and this is what's being assumed here. It's not proven, which is why none of this is proven, which is why human chip common ancestry is not proven. Homology is the assumption that similarity is due to common descent. Now, this is not just the only thing that happens in biology in life, right? Because there's another concept that is homoplasy, which means that similarity that exists that cannot possibly be due to common descent. This is similarity that exists in nature, but this is not from common descent. Now, here's what the atheists are doing. And by the way, homoplasy is not some very rare thing. It's actually quite common in nature as well. Not as common as homology, I think, but homoplasy is all over the place. It's in nature. I don't think anyone will deny this point. Now, here's what the atheists are doing here. The atheists assume that similarity equals common descent, right? And they bring similarities between humans and chimps then. And because humans and chimps are similar, therefore they have common descent. But this is the assumption they need to prove. They need to prove that similarity equals common descent. They can't prove this. If they cannot prove that similarity equals common descent, then the similarities between human and chimps do nothing to show common ancestry. They cannot hope to show common ancestry if similarity is not proven to equal common descent. In this particular case, the atheists cannot prove this. They cannot hope to prove this, which is why this human chip common ancestry cannot be proven, and their belief in this is actually based on nothing but blind faith. And genetics on this point does not help atheists, because I'll give a very simple reason why. Then I'll quote a atheist biologist just to prove my point that genetics in and of adds nothing to this point. Genetics is nothing to prove human chip common ancestry, or it does nothing to resolve the issue between homology and homoplasy. First, I'll go into the basic point why genetics doesn't and fossils. Genetics can't prove human chip common ancestry. When the biologist is looking at the genetics between human and chimps, right? Genetics of human and genetics of apes and chimps. What are they looking for? They are looking for similarities, right? Think about this. How is a biologist going to say that human and chimps are have a common ancestor using genetics by looking at whether their genomes are similar or different. Right, the entire nonsense about entire point about 99% human chimp and human DNA and chimp DNA similar is based on this point. Because their genetics are similar, human and chimps must have a common ancestor. But in all of this, the basic assumption is never proven that similarity equals common descent. Unless the atheists prove this point, all they will have is blind faith. Now, first, I'll just give a reference here from an atheist biologist to prove the point about genetics adding nothing new, right? Then I'll go into the fundamental problem in this atheist belief. This is from I'll give a reference at the end of this. This is actually quite long. And in no other species does technology take on an evolutionary trajectory of its own, a result of the social cycle of invention, adoption, spread, and modification. Other species appear to grieve, but none weep as humans do, and certainly not over imaginary events like those in Les Miserables or Love Story. These are movies, I think. What does genetics have to say about all this? Nothing. Sameness slash otherness is a philosophical paradox that is resolved by argument, not by data. Genetic, keep all this in mind by the way. Genetic data tells us precisely what we already knew, that humans are both very similar to and different from the great apes. But genetics is able to place a number on that similarity. It is not uncommon to encounter the statement that we are something like 99.44% genetically identical to chimpanzee. Actually, that number is the fabled degree of purity of ivory soap, but it serves the purpose. You can literally count the number of base differences among the same regions of DNA in humans and chimpanzees and gorillas and add them up, or you can do the same thing to the byproducts of the DNA protein structures. All such comparisons invariably yield the same result, that humans and chimpanzees and gorillas are extraordinarily similar. But that was also known to Linnaeus. I think this is a guy 300 years ago, without the aid of molecular genetics. So, what's new? Just the number. The reference is from Jonathan Marks, what it means to be 98% chimpanzee. So, the only reason I bothered to read all of that was that someone cannot accuse me of basically misquoting the guy, and to show that genetics adds nothing in this regard. Now, I want to go into the fundamental problem with this contention, right? And why human chimp ancestry cannot be proven. It's actually quite simple, but it's quite profound, inshallah. Just because these are similar, right, does nothing to prove common ancestry. This is a first point. Similarity does not equal common descent. Similarity can exist with descent. Similarity can exist without common descent. Similarity in and of itself does nothing. Yet similarity is the only thing atheists are bringing. Because of this, they cannot prove human chip common ancestry. It will never be proven until they prove that similarity equals common descent. Yet this is a philosophical assumption. This is just an assumption. This will never be proven, and is argued for or against through philosophical means, not empirical means. Now, I want to make a simple point why the atheist cannot disprove the theist position here. It's actually quite simple. And here the atheist position actually involves a type of value judgment, which is why it's worthless. Now, think about this. When God or an intelligent creator creates the first human, right? Does that human necessarily have to be different from a chimp on a genetic or anatomical level? Why? It doesn't need to be, right? God can create. Why can't God create a human with similar physical but different mental characteristics to an already existing life form? Think about this. God can create humans in a life form that is similar to chimps or is different from chimps or any other animal, right? Why does God need to create humans in a body that is different to an existing life form? God doesn't. to claim that God does need to or God should have created humans in a different body that is different from the types of bodies that already exist in other life forms is nothing but a subjective value judgment. The reason I'm bringing all of this, right, is to point out what is a very plausible point here. According to theist position, right, and this is something the atheist cannot disprove. God could have created the first human, right, in a body similar to the type of bodies of the animals that already exist at the time period, right? God could have done this. There is no issue with this. God could have created the human with the same physical body type as an already existing ape or whatever, but mentally that person would be different. The human would be completely different because it's a human, not an that person is a human, not an animal, right? God could have done this. There is nothing implausible about what I've said till now. Now, let's suppose that is the case, and for the theist position, right? I mean, this would have to be the case because physically humans are similar to the apes, right? There's a lot of similarity there. So, if God did this, right, and the theist position should be or would be that God did this, how are the atheists are going to disprove this? Seriously, think about this. How are atheists going to disprove this point? Are they going to bring similar genetics? God created the first human in a similar body as an existing animal, so they should have similar genetics. Through fossils, they would have similar anatomical features. Any other physical thing that atheists would bring, if God is creating the first human in a body that is similar to an existing life form, those things would be expected to be similar. So if they would be similar, right, how are atheists going to prove that the first human was descended and not a special creation by God? They can't prove this. The only thing they can bring is similarity, right? Yet it is possible. There's no issue with this according to Islam, I think. I don't think there would be any issue to this. But think about this. It is possible that God created the first human in a body similar to an existing life form, right? There is no issue with this, and there is absolutely no way for atheists to disprove this point. If the atheist cannot disprove that God created a human being in a first body, in a body that was similar to the a body of an existing life form, right? If the atheist cannot disprove this, then the atheist contention fails. If this is not disproven, right, then the atheist cannot prove that the first human descended from the first chimp, from a common ancestor with a chimp. They will never be able to prove this. If they cannot prove this and they believe this without any proof, then that's a blind faith. Literally, all the atheists have here is blind faith, and they are pretending that this is a major argument. It's not. Inshallah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I've been thinking about this point for quite some time. Inshallah, I'll be doing more series on this point and refuting the blind faith of atheists, and inshallah I'll be doing some videos on the intelligent design topic as well, because I think we can really easily refute atheist clowns on this. Inshallah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Till next time, assalamu alaikum.